Hey there guys, welcome back to Skirmish Miniature Gaming. Luke here, and I'm back to give you another watch and learn today for Warcry. I know we're in lockdown, I haven't got opponents at the moment and for another week or two, so I thought I'll do some more watch and learns whilst I'm by myself to be able to teach you guys how to play some games that we've played for year or more now really for the channel, but I've wanted to actually do this for quite some time. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, or possibly you've been watching Warcry reports for a while now, or Kill Team, or whatever you watch on the channel. So please do subscribe, it makes a massive difference, and throw a like on the video. Leave me a comment down below to let me know if you're excited about getting into Warcry, or if you'd like to ask any more questions after the video. That I can help with. I'm quite happy to help with that, and I'm sure Alan and other people will be down in the comments to help you guys as well. But yeah, please do share as well the video, get it around, you know, so that this video can help people get into Warcry. I really want to help the community with that, but hope you enjoy the video guys, and I'll see you there.
Okay then folks, so let's get into this one, the watch and learn for Warcry. As you can see, the table is blank, there is no terrain, and that's because in Warcry we have the 4 decks of cards that you can use. You don't have to, these are technically optional, you can just use the set battle plans within the different rule books and expansions that there have been, or if you buy the terrain sets that Games Workshop supply, they release separate battle plans and different card packs that you can use for the other terrain to mix in with it. Or you can just use your own terrain, your own setup, your own victory conditions. That's what's beautiful about Warcry. It's a nice simple game to play. But either way, I'm going to teach you guys how to play without the boredom of you listening to me or watching me read through the rulebook. We're just going to play through a game, and I'll explain how it works as we go along. I think that's the best way for it to be. But otherwise, I've kept it thematic to the theme of Warcry, I suppose, as to the narrative behind it, which is the 8 points within the realm of the Age of Sigmar. There's the 8 points, the central 8 points in the middle of all of the realms. There's a realm gate that leads to each realm from this point in the center. The Chaos have owned it for the majority of the lore throughout the Age of Sigmar narrative so far, but many different factions have now ventured into the 8 points to try and, for their own reasons, either to gather spoils or to gain the glory and the gratification of Archaon himself, the leader, if you like, who is in the middle, the Ever-Chosen. And there are these many different Chaos factions that have come out of Warcry now that you can actually buy as separate packs, 2 of which are here, the Splintered Fang and the Unmade. There was a starter set for Warcry when this all first started, with the Iron Golems and the Untamed Beasts, with all this stuff that came with it, but that is no longer sold. And so I thought, let's just choose 2 different Chaos factions, stick to the narrative, or like I say, the narrative behind it is that all of these Chaos factions fight for him in the 8 points, and just want to prove that they're the best, they're the most chaotic, I suppose you could say. But then you do have all of the other factions now from Age of Sigmar pretty much have come out as a choice to use in Warcry. So if you want to use those, there's plenty of expansions for those. Just like in Kill Team there, and all the bigger games for Games Workshop, they're releasing an annual each year. And the Tome of Champions, I believe it is, for Warcry is something definitely worth picking up each year for you to keep up to date with the game. Otherwise, I'll just quickly explain what you need. A board, these are 22 inches by 30 inches. Easier to get them from Games Workshop, they fold up nicely, they're double-sided, or there's many online retailers that's selling their own mats that do these sizes now as well, and we have plenty that we mix up as well now, so definitely worth doing. As I said, there's all of the Chaos factions have their own separate boxes for like 30 odd, 40 odd quid, $40–50 that you can get. You get all the cards with them. That includes your fighter cards, as you can see here, and your ability cards, and also shows your fighter types on the back as well. Just taking you through what you need. I've got the core book there for Warcry, as you can see. Definitely need that. I suggest possibly the annual each year as well, because that doesn't necessarily change many rules, but definitely adds a lot to the game each year and updates it, if you will. I've got the terrain in that box over there. I've painted up half of it to look like this side of the mat, and then on the other side of the mat it's kind of a creamy colour, so I painted up half the terrain to fit that as well, so that I can use both sides. I've got a Warcry ruler. I've got an extra longer measure tape in case we need longer measurements, but this is a 12-inch ruler, you shouldn't need much bigger. And I have a measuring gauge for a 3-inch, 2-inch and 1-inch edge, which also just helps out with things as well there. Like I say, you get all the cards with your packs, so we don't need to go through that. You get the dice generally with the either a core set or if you buy them separately now, and all the counters that we need, which we'll sort out afterwards, but I keep them in a nice bag. You've got dice for both sides, and these red dice are called wild dice. They're like your power dice, if you will, to add to the abilities and things. And then we've got a dice tray for SMG. Obviously, if you want your own dice tray, you can get one to help keep those dice in the right place. But otherwise, what we'll do, I'll take you through the lists, but I'm not going to tell you how to build the list. I'm just going to take you through what I've taken for this game. So on one side, on the left-hand side here, we have one of the Chaos factions, specific factions, the Splintered Fang. They're like a jungle Venom-esque clan. Pretty cool, I do like these guys. The leader, as to which you are only meant to have obviously one leader in the warband, is the True Blood for the Splintered Fang. She is the leader. You then have a Serpent caller and some Serpents in front. I have a Venom Blood with blade and barbed whip in the middle. I have a Venom Blood with spear and shield, so these are slightly bigger dudes. I then have the Pure Blood, he's even bigger. He's got big muscles there with the dual blades. And then we have 3 Clear Bloods, one of which has a shield and blade, 3 of which have dual blades. But we'll go on to the Unmade quickly. The leader is a pretty awesome model. We've got the Blissful one, the leader there on the left. Across from that we have the Joyous one, the second in command if you like. Then coming across, the ones with the halos above their heads, these are Ascended ones. So they're slightly stronger than these on the right hand side, which is Awakened ones with brutal pole arms, and an Awakened one here with a flail, so a ranged weapon. Just before we get going, the first thing you need to do when you have both of your warbands pointed and ready to go, a big part of Warcry, a massive part of Warcry and how it plays, is the battle groups. So you have to form battle groups before you start a game with your warbands. And if I go here and focus in here, you can see I've got 3 different battle groups. That is going to be my dagger, my shield and my hammer, and it's always the same for every warband. And for the Unmade on this side, we've got the dagger, the shield and the hammer. Rules that you have to use for these, and the reason we make battle groups is for the deployment. So when we flip a deployment card in a moment, or if you have a preset battle plan, then it'll already have it on there for you. There's little symbols that show a dagger, a shield and a hammer, and you have to deploy your battle group in that position. Some battle groups start on the table on battle round 1, some go into reserves and drop in round 2 or 3 onwards. But essentially the only other rules you have to bear in mind is that your shield, which is usually your strongest battle group, and I recommend it having your strongest fighters in there for the most part, are usually going to start on the battlefield, but also generally have to follow the rules of have to have at least a third or more of number of models in total of your warband in the shield. So obviously there's 4 in here, there's 3 and 3 in the other 2 battle groups, therefore they've got at least a third or more in the shield model count. The other one is that you can't have more than half of the total number in the warband, which in this case I believe there's 6 other fighters in other battle groups. There's only 4 in the shield, so that's not more than half of the whole total number of fighters in the warband in the shield, so that's fine. We've met both criteria for the shield there. Otherwise, you're very much welcome to do whatever else you want with the battle groups. It's just the shield that has those special rules. And so I've done the same thing for the Unmade here. We've got 3 in one group, 2 in the other, but then the shield only has 4. So you're usually probably going to have about 4 in there. Some of the new warbands though, such as the Ogre Kingdoms and things like that, tend to have a lot less numbers in there, so you've got to be careful that you don't break the rules for that. So do make sure you look at that in the core rule book when you come to deploy or to sort out your deployment. But otherwise, we'll get on to flipping these cards for the game and how we set up. Okay, so first thing you do before flipping any of the cards is technically you roll off. So Splintered Fang will have these yellowy coloured dice, yellowy greeny moss coloured dice. They get a 4, and the Unmade gets a 4, so we'll re-roll that. The Unmade get a 6 and a 4 for the Splintered Fang. So the Unmade have priority, and this matters when you're playing with multiple. Obviously, I'm obviously both at this game, but usually if you were to play each other, then that would declare who deploys first, etc., who gets to pick place objectives first and things like that for the priority. So we'll explain that as we go, and whoever rolls and wins the priority roll flips all the cards, which we'll do now. So technically what you do is you can have these 4 decks, and we're going to do this because it's the way that Warcry is technically meant to be played, or is played best. But like I say, you do have set battle plans as well, where you don't have to flip the separate cards. But doing it this way, you can get a really good mix each time you play the game, and it makes every game seem very, very different, which is what you want when you play these skirmish games. You flip all 4 types of card at once, and then you resolve them in the order from top to bottom. So we've got the terrain card there. As you can see, that is how we set up the terrain, and this is the core set terrain, like I say, from the original terrain for Warcry. But there are many different cards you can get for the other terrain types that Games Workshop produce. We've got the deployment card, Strike from the Shadows. But Strike from the Shadows, you can see the deployment there. One will be red, one will be blue. And then for this, we've got the Hunt for Glory. That is the victory condition. And we've got Eerie Silence, the twist, which this time Eerie Silence means there is no twist effect for this game. But usually I suggest shuffle the deck, draw a twist card, and definitely apply the twist to the game because it creates a good mix. This time I did not. I chose to choose Eerie Silence for no twist effect because I wanted to keep the rules slightly simpler so that you guys can learn the core rules of the game and we don't have to do too much with that. But I'll explain these different things as we go through, but technically you sort out the terrain first, then you deploy as per the deployment type, then you sort out the victory condition if you need to place any objectives or anything like that, and then you resolve anything to do with the twist. Okay then, so there we go. I've set up the terrain as per the card that we drew. So as you can see, kind of resembling it with the ruin set that we've got. A fairly simple map setup, nice for a starter game I think actually. And then I've put out these crosses to resemble where the shields are going to drop for our battle groups in this first round. I've already pre-measured that out. So Strike from the Shadows, I've pre-selected this one because there's reserves for round 2 and 3, so I thought it would be best one to pick to show you guys how these things work. And because we have 3 rounds as well for the victory conditions. So Strike from the Shadows, you've got a shield on both sides. Since the Unmade won the roll-off, they get to choose whether they want to be blue or red. It makes no difference to me playing this game, but let's say that the Unmade will be blue, so they'll be deploying on the shield on this side, and the red will be Splintered Fang, and they'll drop next to that cross on that side. So the way deployment will work, starting with the person who has priority, they will drop their dagger first. If your dagger is actually in reserved, in this case coming in round 2 for the blues, which is the Unmade, their dagger would be coming on round 2 from that table edge there, so between the middle and the corner there. So what we'd do is we'd drop our dagger over that far side by the edge of the table, just to make sure that we remember they're coming in later. Then your opponent drops their dagger wherever they're going to go. Then you do the shield, same sequence. Then you do the hammer, same sequence. And that's how it works. But in this case, we have reserves for everything except for the shields. So the shield for the priority winner will go first, which will be the Unmade. Okay, so deployment complete, as I said. We've got the Unmade on this side. Our shield is dropped within 3 of that X that are dropped there, which is where we're going to deploy the battle group. Then over here, within this X, we've got the Splintered Fang shield as well. And we've got our reserves coming in later, the other battle groups, round 2 and 3. So we'll sort those out as they happen later on. Other than that, we have flipped the cards. The victory condition is Hunt for Glory. Anoint the ritual sites in honor of the Dark Gods. Place one. Oh, one thing I must point out as well. You'll notice that on the victory and the deployment cards, there's these symbols. These are symmetrical symbols. If you want to separate these cards from the deck, they are match play cards if they don't have this symbol on their narrative. These, if you want a nice equal match game, only use the cards with the symmetrical symbols on. The terrain setups and the twists, as far as I'm aware, are just as they are. Obviously, they're not going to. They're kind of narrative-based things anyway, really. So they don't have the symmetrical symbols. I've chosen 2 symmetrical ones for this game because
it just happened to be honest, but quite good for a watch and learn. But these are symmetrical in this case. Hunt for glory, place one objective at the center of the battlefield on the battlefield floor, which does mean the floor, not on top of a platform, for instance. Starting with the player who won the priority roll, each player places one objective on the battlefield more than 9 inches horizontally from any other objectives and more than 4 inches from the battlefield edge. At the end of each battle round, each player scores a victory point for each objective they control. The battle ends after about 3 battle rounds. When the battle ends, the player with the most victory points wins the battle. And so with victory conditions, we carry on for 3 battle rounds to see who can get the most victory points. If it's a draw by that point, you carry on the game for another battle round to see if you can still achieve that victory condition. And if after that 4th battle round, that extra battle round to do it, it's still a draw and nobody can win the game via the victory condition, it's just all-out slaughter. It's just annihilation, so you just have to destroy your opponent completely. Then we would obviously resolve the twist and make sure that we know what that is for the game. Example of some twists are just like adding 1 to the attacks characteristic of all characters on the board, models on the board for the game. You get +1 wild dice for the whole game. You get to add 1 to your ability value for the whole game. Those kind of things, which will make it more sense later. But that's exactly why I didn't flip a twist for the first game, because I wanted to keep things nice and simple. But definitely, guys, when you play your games, I suggest when you play your first one, don't use a twist. Keep the core rules simple, like we are here. Then going into your second game, definitely throw in a twist because it mixes up the game for sure. But that is basically setup, which is a big part, to be honest, of Warcry, and that's why it's taken a while to get through, because it's a very important part of the game. Also forgot to mention, obviously, when we did the victory condition part before we did the twist, I put one objective in the center there, and I've dropped the objectives down, markers down here, so that we know what's going on with that. One thing to also point out, objectives in Warcry, you have to have part of your base within 3 inches of the center of the objective to hold it, and it's more models on each objective control it generally, like a lot of other games, but I thought I'd point that out because it can be different, such as like Kill Team and things. It's different measurements, so there you go. So the way the initiative dice work in Warcry, the best part of the game in my opinion, it's so fun. So each player will start the game with 1 wild dice each. So I could say the Splintered Fang will be these coloured dice, the black will be Unmade. They both start with a wild dice each. You can bank wild dice if you don't want to use them, by the way, but I'll show you now how this works. So priority is for the Unmade at the moment, so we'll roll their initiative dice first. All 6 dice get rolled. And the way this game works, so you match up the same number on the dice. So that's quite interesting for the Unmade. They have a 222, so 3 of the same dice. They have a 555, and they have a single 1. And the way initiative is determined is whoever has the most single number of dice, gains initiative for that battle round. If you have the same number of singles, then this is where the wild dice come into play. So what we'll do now is we'll roll the Splintered Fangs dice, and they get a 4, they get a 1, and they get 2 singles. So this is where I'm on about it can get quite interesting. And that's a perfect first roll, to be honest. That gives us a good mix. How you want to pick these initiative dice and how do they counteract with the game. So we'll flip these cards over now, because these are your ability cards for each faction. So the Unmade have their own 6 abilities that they can use, and the Splintered Fang have their own 6. And these symbols correspond to the fighter cards as to which fighters can actually use each ability. There's a card that you get with the starter set, or whichever set you're kind of getting. If you're just getting the card set, it'll have this in it. The universe abilities can obviously be used by any faction, so long as you have the ability dice corresponding. So you have and obviously the leader can only use the one with the leader symbol on it, Inspiring Presence. So just as an example, we use the universal card for now. So you've got a double abilities, triple abilities, and quad abilities. We've rolled our dice, and now I can help you figure out what happens with that. So for example, with the 222, the value on the ability dice is 2, and we have a 222. So we can use a triple ability with this, or we can use it as a double ability, because that's a lower value ability than what we have. Whereas the 555, we could use it for a double ability, and that's it. The single has no effect on abilities. They just go towards claiming initiative and turn order for the next battle round. So in this case,
they do not have initiative because the Splintered Fang have 2 singles. They have more singles than the Unmade's 1, and therefore they currently have initiative. However, before we go into the battle round, you have a chance to either seize initiative by applying more single dice or by adding to your ability levels. So wild dice first has to be chosen by the person that currently has initiative, which is Splintered Fang in this case, and therefore they have to apply their wild dice first. And you can either choose to bank the wild dice for next turn so that you have 2 to use next round, or you can use it straight away now to add towards things. So the Splintered Fang have a choice here. They can add a, you have to use a different number, so we've got a 4, a 1, a 6 and a 2 here. So I have to say use a number that we don't have, so I'd have to use a 5 if I wanted to make another single. However, I could use a 4 and make a triple 4, turn that double 4 into a triple. If though I had, for example, I banked a wild dice and next round we had 2 wild dice, you can't use 2 wild dice on the same to boost the same ability, the same double. So say we have a double 4, I have 2 wild dice to use, I can't make the same number on both wild dice if I apply both of them. I could go a triple 4 and a triple 1, but I can't make a quad 4 with 2 wild dice, which is unfortunate, but it would get out of hand. Splintered Fang in this situation are choosing first. With the Splintered Fang, I'm just going to use this as an example here, because there aren't many that do it. So I'm going to make a double 6 out of my 6. Now, obviously, this isn't necessarily a decision I'd make in a normal game, but I want to show this off to you guys so you understand how things work. So Splintered Fang have made a double 6. They have 3 doubles now, and the values on those doubles are 4, 1 and 6. We have 1 single. My opponent now has 1 single. If my opponent was to bank their wild dice, they'd have a single and I'd have a single, and they'd get to roll off against me because we now both have an equal number of singles. However, the Unmade now have the opportunity to seize the initiative by making a second single. They now have more singles than I do. I spent my wild dice on a double, which could have been a mistake, and they've seized that opportunity by adding another wild dice, and now they have more singles than I have, and they take initiative. So it's fairly simple when I take it through it like that, guys. And in this case, I am going to use both wild dice like that, just so I can explain how initiative works in that respect. So the Unmade are going to get to go first here, and I'm going to activate the pole arm over here. Now let's go to the stat cards just so you guys understand how these work. Nice symbols, there's no writing, so it means that any language can understand as well. The pole arm, take his card. You've got the arrow, 4 movement, 3 toughness, 10 health. Points value at the top there, your faction symbol at the top left. And this is just the weapon stat line, which we don't read right now. So pole arm moves 4 inches. You get 2 actions in Warcry. You can make a movement as per their movement, and then you could move again. You can use the same 2 actions in a row if you really want to. If you're within range of your weapon, so your weapon range here, so for the pole arm it's 2, for the leader, for example, it's only 1 range. So if it's 1 inch range, you have to be within 1 inch of an opponent's base and your base to be able to make an attack action. In the case of ranged attacks, so the Serpent Caller's got the largest range on the board, it's got an 8-inch dart throw. If you're within 8 inches, you can use an action as an attack action with that weapon. Fairly simple, really nice and smooth way to do things. But in this case, my pole arm is going to make 2 move actions, 4 inches to the end of the spikes, and he's going to make 4 to get around there, because at some point I've got to keep hold of this objective as well, and he will be within 3 inches of it to help hold it this round. And we've got obviously eventually the Splintered Fang coming on from this flank here from reserve, so I want to make sure I'm in a bit of cover there. After that, that's his 2 actions. It's an alternating game, so a model will now get to activate for the Splintered Fang. I think the Serpents are going to make a move forwards here. In fact, actually, let's go with the leader. The leader will move 4 inches and then another 4 just to get within 3 of that objective there, and that's her 2 actions done. After that 2 actions, it's just going to be on to the Unmade again here. There's a lot of movement in the first battle round, no matter how many rounds you're playing. Obviously, we've only got 2 more after this anyway. Nice and short game to play for the watch and learn video. For this though, the leader for the Unmade, which I always forget the name of, the Blissful one, has a big range of movement. She's got 8 inches of movement there, and so she's going to pretty much just be able to jump straight into combat, which is what I wanted to show off here. So she's going to make an 8-inch jump. She has a 1-inch attack action, and so will stop within an inch there to be able to attack the True Blood. So leader on leader here. She now has an action left. However, I'm going to use an ability now, so this is where our dice now come into use. One important thing to say is that if an ability says until the end of the activation, that counts for both actions for that fighter. If it just says for this next action, it's only for one of the actions you're going to use next. You can use your abilities before the first action, after the first action, or after the whole activation. So even if a fighter has moved twice or attacked twice, if you've got an ability you then want to use straight after that for that model, you can do. So you can use it at any point. Obviously not midway through an action, but yeah, quite handy, makes the game nice and fluid, and makes the abilities the biggest part of the game really. But she's in combat, so she's going to use a double, so in this case a double 5. And she's going to use one of the universal abilities for onslaught. So add 1 to the attack's characteristic of attack actions made by this fighter until the end of their activation. So attack action for the Blissful one. Like I said, 1-inch range. She has 5 attacks normally, but goes up to 6, which is ridiculous because of onslaught. She's strength 4, and the damage is 2/6. On the dice, you have a crit, which is that there, that sword symbol, skull symbol. If you roll a crit, you get the second amount of damage, which everybody fishes for crits in this game. That is the strongest part of it. If you get a normal hit, you get 2. The table is simple in Warcry. If you're higher than the toughness of the opponent, you hit on 3s. If it's the same as their toughness, your strength, then it's 4s. And if your strength is lower than their toughness, it's 5s to hit. Really simple. 1 roll, 1 load of damage. That's how it works. Very, very simple. It can result in there being a lot or no damage at all, but that's how it works. The True Blood has toughness 4, we're strength 4. So 4s to hit here, 6s get the critical damage. We get 1 crit and 1 hit. Okay, so below average really there, but we do still get 8 damage because we add the characteristics. We got 1 hit for 2 damage, 1 crit for 6 damage. That's 8 overall. That is the attack action. Very, very simple. There's nice damage counters in the pack here, so we'll apply them now to the True Blood. And she has 20 health overall, so she's got 20 health remaining. So what I'm going to do, the Whip is going to use a double ability from their collection. We'll use a double 1 because the value doesn't matter for this ability, meaning I get +1 movement, and we'll activate the Venom Blood with the Whip and Sword or Blade. She has 5 inches normally, but we'll make a 6-inch move instead. So we'll move 3 and 3 to get me comfortably just up behind the True Blood leader. That's 1 action in which I used Rush. I would get +1 movement for my second action if I chose to move again, but I'm only going to move once because I'm now within 3 inches to attack the Blissful one with my Whip, because my Whip, if you look at the characteristics here, is indeed 3-inch range, 3 attacks, strength 3, 1/2 damage. So not brilliant damage. One other thing to note is that models don't intervene in any way for cover or anything like that in terms of your own models. So in this respect, the Whip is just going to attack straight through the True Blood, and because he's within range, to attack the Blissful one leader. So we can't. The other thing to note as well is that with abilities and ability dice, you can't use 2 abilities on the same fighter in the same activation. So I've just used Rush here for the Venom Blood. They can't now use another ability in the same activation. And then we've got 3 attack dice, and we're strength 3, but the Blissful one is toughness 4, so we're rolling 5s to hit here. We get a crit though, which does cause the second amount of damage, which is 2 here. So we cause 2 damage to the Blissful one, and it's onto the Unmade and their activation. So we'll activate the Joyous one now, the second in command for the Unmade, and he will make a double 5-inch move for 10 inches, and will plonk himself right down in between these two ready for next round, so he can't do much else. However, he can use an ability and has a faction-specific ability for a triple that we'll try out, which is just for good fun, I suppose. So we'll match up the symbols. The Joyous one is the only one that can use this ability, so the symbols match up. Flaying Frenzy, because the Unmade are like cannibalistic and they're wear the bodies and things of their opponent, very Saw, Chainsaw Massacre-esque. But Flaying Frenzy, roll a dice for each visible enemy fighter within 3 inches of this fighter, which is 2 opponents. So we'll roll a dice for each one. On a 3 to 4, allocate 1 point of damage to them. On a 5 to 6, allocate a number of damage points equal to the points to the fighter being rolled for, equal to the value of the abilities. So we'll roll 1 dice for the True Blood. We use our 222 to use Flaying Frenzy. Roll a dice for the True Blood. On a 3 or 4, it's 1 damage, no damage there, though on a 5 or 6 it would be 2 damage. 1 dice for the Venom Blood. Oh wow, poor rolling. Hey ho, that's that. Unfortunately, Joyous one didn't pull off much there, but he is set next round within an inch of those fighters to fight next round, so lovely stuff. We'll go on to the activation now for the Splintered Fang, and the Serpents will activate. They get 6 movement, and I'll tell you what we'll actually do. We'll use this double here. Double 4 for a onslaught, so we get +1 attack to attack actions. The Serpents move 6, quite fast moving, getting to within an inch there of the Joyous one. So attack action for the second action with the Serpents. They usually have 5 attacks, now have 6 because of onslaught, and they're attacking into the Joyous one who has toughness 4. In fact, actually, you know what? Let's not use onslaught. For something a bit different, let's use the Splintered Fang's generic ability, just to show you something different again. Poisoned Weapon, so until the end of the fighter's activation, the strength characteristic of the attack actions made by this fighter count as being higher than the target's toughness, which is massive, because the Joyous one has toughness 4 and the Serpents only have strength 3, so they would be hitting on 5s, now they're hitting on 3s for a double, for 1 attack action. So they got 5 attacks, but with the Poisoned Weapon, which makes sense for Serpents, they're now wounding or hitting on 3s, so a big difference there. And there you go, it did help slightly. So we've got 3 hits instead of what would have been 2, and they only do a point of damage, I believe, per normal hit. So that's 3 points of damage there to the Joyous one. One other thing here that I'm just going to quickly explain is with combat, is that if the True Blood, for example, here was going to attack, she'd have to choose whether to attack the Blissful one or the Joyous one. But if she had a ranged attack, for example, she wouldn't be able to use her ranged attack against anyone further away than the 1 inch she's in combat with. So once you're within an inch of an opponent, you have to attack those opponents within combat, which is the way they stop ranged attacks shooting from inside combat to out of combat. But ranged attacks can shoot into combat against an opponent, even if they're engaged with someone. Other actions that you can use, which we will possibly use later, you can choose to disengage for 3 inch movement away from your opponent, but you have to end up away, you can't end up in combat with another opponent. And then you get another action, obviously, to do whatever you want. For example, though, you can also do a wait action, in which we do have a counter for that. If you wait on your first action, you can then activate with 1 single action later in the battle round at any point you wish. We now have this, I think it's an Ascended one, is it not? I always forget the names of these. Yes, with the halo on top. They will move and help claim this objective, actually. So the Ascended ones will look here. They have 5 movement. It's quite a lot of movement. And they're going to just make a double move. He's going to make a double move, get into combat with the Serpent, the True Blood, sorry, ready for next round. The last activation will be the Serpent Caller, who will make a nudge back in this direction, and then we'll still be within 3 of the center of that objective there, and nudge her slightly further forward, but then does have line of sight just about here of the Joyous one. However, will be shooting through terrain. And one thing I will note is that in the core manual, the core rule book for Warcry, They haven't properly really declared how terrain works, and they have fact it. So essentially, if you're partially covered by terrain from a ranged action, you get cover. And the way cover works in this is you just get +1 to your toughness, nice and simple. So the Serpent Caller will use his 8-inch range dart throw, which will give cover shooting through the ruins to the Joyous One, who, and obviously is in combat, but like we said, you can shoot into combat so long as you're not in combat yourself, engaged yourself. The Joyous One had toughness 4. The darts for the Serpent Caller only have strength 3, I believe. Yep, strength 3. But technically the Joyous One goes up to toughness 5 as well, so it just stays the same. Would have been hitting on 5 anyway. Hits on 5s now anyway again, so only a single dart throw on a 5 or a crit from the Serpent Caller, so we'll throw the dart. Oh, we do get a hit for a damage, so 1 damage to the Joyous One, and that'll be that. Other than that, that is technically the end of the round. You calculate any points in the game. In this case, for the first battle round, the Unmade hold this objective with the polearm for 1 point. They also have more fighters within 3, I believe, of that centre objective. I think they even have 3 on there. The Splintered Fang couldn't get round to it quick enough, and so we'll have to stay put. With 2 to 1 points, Splintered Fang hold that one at the back there with the Serpent Caller. So 2-1 at the moment to the Unmade, and obviously this next round we're going to have to do another initiative roll now. You get new initiative dice. So once again for this next battle round, the same initiative dice, and they get 1 wild dice each. We'll start with the Unmade again here. Rolling their initiative dice, they get, a triple 3 going into the bank there, and 3 singles this round for the Unmade. So they got a triple 3 and 3 separate singles, so very different again to last round really. Roll then for the Splintered Fang, let's see what they get here. They get very different again, so a double 2, and they've got 3 singles, so wow. Double 2 there, and then they've got 4 different singles. So once again going through the wild dice step, 4 singles for the Splintered Fang and only 3 for the Unmade, so therefore Splintered Fang currently have initiative and have to choose their wild dice first. They're actually going to try and keep initiative, and they're going to make sure that they hold initiative by making a single 5, so it's different to all the other dice that are currently on the table for them. They now have 5 singles, which means that the Unmade can't even match their original 4 singles, and so they've outrun them with the wild dice, meaning the Unmade can only add to their triple 3 or add to one of these singles to turn it into a double. So they could use a double, make a double 6, they could make a quad 3, which is definitely what they're going to do. So they're going to add a 3 with their wild dice to make a quad 3. The Splintered Fang definitely take initiative, and so they drop in all of their reserves first. Reserves happen first each phase if you've got any reserves to drop in. And in this round, I believe the dagger for the Unmade is on that side, the dagger for the Splintered Fang is here. So they can deploy essentially 3 inches in on the length here, halfway up. So anywhere up to that halfway point from the end of the board there, 3 inches from the edge. And it's the same on the other side there, that halfway point for the Unmade. There we go, so we've dropped in reserves, and these 3 here for the Splintered Fang have dropped in. Obviously as close as they can kind of get to the objective, really playing on that. The Unmade on the other side is slightly different. You can elevate yourself if that's within the 3, so you don't have to measure height with the deployment. So here you can see I'm halfway up the steps there because that's 3 inches in from the edge. And the other 2 there, the Ascended one and the Flail, just in on that side to go and take on the Serpent Caller. So going into the second round now, after reserve phase, you go into the action phase for all the activations, and it'll be Splintered Fang first since they have the initiative. First thing the Splintered Fang will do before that True Blood gets swarmed by everything, she's going to attack the Blissful one, the leader, and try and take off a bit more of her health. And what we're going to do, we're usually strength 4 and she's toughness 4. So what I think we'll do, we'll use Onslaught to get more chance of those critical hits in there for a double. As always, it's the only double of Splintered Fang and the only ability they have this battle round. 5 attacks for both attack actions now, needing 4s because strength 4, toughness 4. Getting 2 hits for 2 damage, so 4 damage overall.
4 so far. Second attack action. Oh, 1 hit and 3 critical hits. So from normal hits, this activation, that's 6 damage. However, the crit damage is 5 for a True Blood. She got 3 crits. That's 15 damage just from the crits. That is 21 damage overall this round. She already suffered 2 the Blissful one. So she's taken 27 overall. She's got 20 health only. So she goes down quite comfortably there from both attack actions. So now we go on to the Unmade and their activation, and they're going to respond with an ability as well because they're not happy about that, the fact that their lead has been taken out. And so the Ascended one with the halo on the right hand side here will use a quad 3 ability, and we haven't seen a quad yet, so quite nice that we're getting a good showing of all of these. So a quad 3, and we'll use that on, let's have a little look. So the Unmade's quad ability isn't quite handy in his situation, but the universal ability is always a good one for a quad. Rampage, this fighter makes a bonus move and then a bonus attack action. And obviously, abilities, any bonus actions that abilities grant do not count towards normal actions. So pretty brutal Rampage if you can get a quad. The Ascended one makes a bonus 5-inch move, easily getting into the Serpent Caller within an inch there to attack. Gets the bonus attack action there as part of the Rampage move. No bonus dice or anything, but he already has 4 dice, and so strength 4, toughness 4 for the Serpent Caller, so 4's needed. 2 hits, that is, the Ascended ones do 2 damage base, so that's 4 damage already to the Serpent Caller, so he's down to 11 health. We're going to keep attacking. First action's going to be an attack, 4's again, that's 4 more damage for 2 hits on 4's. He's on 8 damage now. I need to cause 7 more to take him out. Come on, could do with some crits here. We don't get any crits, but that is another 6 damage. And we come 1 damage short of taking out the Serpent Caller. She's taken quite a bit of damage there, all considering. But that is the Ascended one done. The Serpent Caller on 1 health left. Serpent Caller is just going to cause as much damage as he can whilst he's alive. And so he's going to attack back into the Ascended one. So let's see if we can get better luck than the Ascended one did with crits. So 4 attacks on 4's into the Ascended one. 2 hits for 4 damage. Again, 4's. Cock dice there. Oh my god, only 1 hit there. So worse than the Ascended one did, really. That's only 6 damage to him and leaves him on only 4 health left. That could have been so much different as well there. I think we're going to go for the Joyous one in the middle, who's quite surrounded, to be fair. So we'll activate the Joyous one in the middle. No ability dice left, so just we're going to do attack actions, I think, and we'll attack into the Serpents because they're quite low health. They've only got 8 health, for example. We get 4 attacks with the Joyous one. Strength 4, toughness only 2 for the Serpent, so we need 3's here to hit. Oh, that's better hitting. So we get 3 hits for 6 damage, plus 4 for the crit, 10 damage. 2 more than needed to take out those Serpents with the first attack action. Brutal stuff. So that's a kill already. We've got 1 action left with the Joyous one. Attack the Venom Blood with the Whip and Blade. 4 attacks. Strength 4, but toughness of the Venom Blood is 3, so still 3's. And that is 2 hits, 1 crit. That is 8 damage again. Brutal stuff. 2 health left though for the Venom Blood. They've got 2 more health than the Serpents. Onto the Splintered Fang, and I think the Fang will try... I reckon the Venom Blood will go before he possibly dies because there is this Ascended one here. And one thing to note, even though the Ascended one is within an inch of the True Blood and has to attack her, he could make a move even though he's engaged. So one thing with Warcry is even if you're within the engagement range of an inch, because if you're within an inch of an opponent, you're classed as engaged. If you're within your weapon range, so your weapon range could be 3, you're not engaged. That's why a 2 or 3 inch or longer range weapon is effective, because you're not stuck in combat. If you're within an inch of an opponent, you're classed as engaged and you have to disengage before you move out of engagement range. However, you can still move within that inch engagement range so long as you stay with as close as you were to the opponent you were with originally, or the opponents you were with. So in this case, the Ascended one could move around and get into combat with the Venom Blood as well and then attack. So that's exactly why I'm going to use the Venom Blood now before he possibly gets killed, and we'll attack into the Joyous one to try and possibly finish him off. We'll use the range 1 weapon, which is strength 3, 3 attacks, 2-4 damage though for the range 1 attack. We need 5s though because toughness 4 for the Joyous one. We only get 1 hit for 2 damage though. And we go again for the second action. We'll attack again. 2 more hits though. So that's 6 damage overall in that activation from the Venom Blood, which then puts the Joyous one up to 10 damage in total. Now onto the Unmade again. We'll go with the pole arm over here before he starts getting absolutely obliterated. We're going to go move across and fall back a bit, I think, because these 3 are definitely going to take this objective. And what I'm actually going to do here, because my movement isn't that much, the pole arm here is going to make a double move. The first 4-inch move straight over the spikes, so that I can kind of show you how this works. So essentially what you do with impact damage is, like I said earlier, if you fell from a certain height, you roll a single dice for that fighter. On a 4 or 5 they suffer a damage, on a 6 they suffer 3. It's the same for if you climb over spikes essentially. And if you fall next to spikes or get pushed down next to spikes, you suffer impact and you suffer an extra dice for the spikes as well. So pretty nasty. But we climbed over the spikes, so we roll a dice. A 6, so we take 3 damage, the worst possible, of course. It never is easy. 3 damage for climbing over the spikes, and then we get to make an extra action, and we're going to make a move action and help get onto that objective there for next round. Onto the Splintered Fang now, and I think the only one left to go for Splintered Fang now due to their losses. We've just got this flank here, so we'll start moving upwards, I think, with whatever we need to. We'll just make simple moves with the Clear Blood up to, let's go to there. The Unmade have a couple of fighters left here, so that's going to be that Clear Blood done. We'll go up and over this side. The Flail will try and finish off the Serpent caller, I think, who has Toughness 4. The Flail is, let's have a look here, 3-inch range. So I need to make a move action first, just to get tucked into here and stay within range of that objective. Then we'll be within 3 of the Serpent caller, in which the Flail, I believe, and we'll take a look here, is 3 dice. So we'll use 3 dice, and only strength 3, so we need 5s here, but I only need 1 5+, because that Serpent caller, remember, is only on 1 health left. And we get a crit, which will definitely do it, which gives 2 damage, so nasty stuff. And down goes the Serpent caller. More than enough to take him down. For the Splintered Fang, the Venom Blood will now activate, who is the slightly bigger one, pumped full of venom, and is 4 movement. So we'll make a double 8-inch move there and get pretty much straight over into there, because next round these 2 here can only deploy within 3 of that middle spot there. So the Venom Blood's preparing for them to come in essentially. In fact, you know what, we might as well stay within 3 of that objective anyway, so we'll stay there. And then over on this side, what I'm going to demonstrate to you now, the Unmade have the pole arm left to go. He's going to make a normal 4-inch move and get up to the top with that action to there. Up the stairs. The stairs don't really count as climbing, so you can just use normal movement. Whereas if you're climbing up the side of a building, you just measure the distance, and you have to have enough movement to fit your base on the top of the building. So we'll get right to the edge, and then what I'm going to show you is how to jump. And obviously this terrain from Warcry is now classed as being the impact damage height. So obviously that's what you want, you want plenty of stuff to push people off of. But in this case, I'm just going to jump. You just measure the horizontal distance and drop them straight below it. I'm going to jump straight down, and we'll come straight down into there. So that I'm within 2 inches there with my pole arm of the True Blood again for next round. But that's my 2 actions. I jumped, remember, from that height, which is capable of causing impact damage, so I'll have to roll again. And this time I roll a 2 for impact damage, which means that I don't get a 4, 5 or crit, and I don't suffer any damage. All that's left here now is the Splintered Fang with the shield. We'll just move into, with both actions, in to get onto that objective again there, ready for this flank to come on next round for the Unmade. I've actually got for the Unmade as well here, I forgot this Ascended one hasn't been either, so he is going to do what I suggested earlier, and he's going to make, even though he's within combat of that True Blood, he's going to make a 4-inch move to get around and get within 1 inch of both the True Blood and the Venom Blood. So you're more than welcome to do that, so long as you still stay within range of the True Blood. And then I'm now in with the Venom Blood, so I can use my second action to attack him instead. He's only got 2 health left, which is why I wanted to do this. So for the second action, 4 attacks for an attack action, and it's going to be Strength 4, Toughness 3, I think it was, for the whip, yep.
3s needed. We get a crit and a hit, 2 hits, sorry, more than enough to take out the Venom Blood. That's a bold move again by the Unmade, and the Splintered Fang wearing down now, looking pretty hurt by that. But the Unmade playing it pretty smart there, and they're now on 4 points to the Splintered Fang's 2. So unless the Splintered Fang can really start to take over the map in this next round, they would lose the game. So we'll do a quick third round here now, guys. We'll roll some more initiative dice. Okay, then to initiative roll, we'll do the Unmade first, as we have done the whole game, because they have priority. They get a double 4. Nice. They get a double 6 and 2 singles. They're quite an even out roll there. Hopefully the Splintered Fang can get a quad now this round and even things out a bit. Splintered Fang will now roll. Both get a wild dice this round, remember. And once again, the Splintered Fang only getting doubles there, really. Double 4, double 6. And they indeed get 2 singles as well. So here we go. This is a really good example. The ability rolls have been quite good to show off for a watch and learn in this game. So equal on singles, and therefore these guys are going to have to roll off. So I'll use these red dice to do it. Equal number of singles before we do anything else. So let's go Unmade, get a 4, Splintered Fang get a 3, they win the roll. So the Unmade currently have initiative, and therefore if they were to place another single with their wild dice, so let's say they made a 3. If the Splintered Fang made another single now, and let's say made a single 3, it wouldn't make any difference because you can't equal up to roll off again. We've already rolled off once this round, and so that's the advantage that the Unmade currently have. They don't have to worry now about them taking it. Given that they're already in a position of power, they're going to make sure they pull off this round with adding another single to make sure that Splintered Fang could not take initiative whatsoever. Splintered Fang don't have many uses for triples, to be honest, so they're just going to use making a triple, another double. And they're going to make a double 5. So they've got 3 doubles for this round, and Unmade only have 2. But Unmade did keep initiative by adding that extra single, which should help them this round. It does mean they have to drop in their reserves first from that flank. In this scenario, as you can see, you can deploy all up and down these flanks 3 inches from the edge. If you don't have this arrow symbol or length symbol, so the whole indicating the whole length of the table edge, and you just have the single drop point, you have to deploy 3 inches from that center point from where it shows the symbol. So one thing you can say for sure after us deploying reserves here, Unmade dropping their 2 in from their hammer on that flank there, and the Splintered Fang coming in with their 3 from that edge from their hammer battle group. I think, to be honest, the Joyous one's going to go, and he's going to use Onslaught, I think, here, which will use to get rid of this True Blood. So I'm going to use my double 4 for the Unmade on the Joyous one to get +1 attack for each attack action this round. For my first action, I'll attack the True Blood, which will give me now more dice as well. So the Joyous one usually has 4, so we'll go up to 5 dice. Strength 4, Toughness 4 for the True Blood, so 4 is needed. Oh, only the crit, no hits, but the True Blood's already suffered damage, I believe, and he's just taken 4 more there. The True Blood's got 8 health left, and so with 1 attack action here we need to do this. So we need 4 hits on 4s or a crit and a couple of hits here. So let's see what we can do. Hitting on 4s, we get 2 hits and a crit. I think that's bang on 8 damage, and it is, so that's perfect amount to take out the Splintered Fang leader. So Splintered Fang will activate, and I'm just about, to be honest, within 2 with my spear and shield there, weapon of the Ascended one there. So we'll attack with my 2-inch range spear with the Venom Blood there. That's going to be 3 attacks, strength 4, but I'm going to use Onslaught because it's under 3 range for a double 4. In fact, it would be strength 4, so actually what I'm going to do here, they're toughness 4, so I'm going to use that as a poison weapon instead so that I get higher strength than their toughness automatically, which means I get 3 attacks and I have higher strength than them for poison weapon, which means 3s to wound instead. Oh dear, that's poor. So that's only 2 damage, but the Ascended one's already taken 6. They have 2 health left, I think. Yep, because they got 10 health overall. They've taken 6 already, another 2 there. They've got 2 health remaining. We'll take another 3 shots at him. We only need to cause 2 damage here,
and we get a crit and no hits, which means that we definitely, with 4 more damage there, take out the Ascended one. We will go on to the Unmade now, and the polearm here is going to move down the flank to here and be within 2-inch range of the Venom Blood, but also, if I get against the spikes there, will be within 3 of the centre of the objective and within 2 of the Venom Blood. I'm not going to have more strength than its toughness anyway, so I don't mind about the cover. But we will poke him through the spikes, and it's going to be toughness 4 for the Venom Blood, I believe, yeah, and strength 3 for the spear from the polearm. So it's going to be 2 attacks, and let's have a look here. We need 5s. I get 2 hits though, which is still 2 damage on the Venom Blood. We'll keep activating the Splintered Fang on this side though, and it's going to be a Pure Blood making a 4-inch move, getting on the objective, but also within 1 inch there of the Flail. And he'll get an attack action now, which we will do. Clear Blood has 4 attacks with the dual blades. Yep, so 4's needed. And that is going to be 1 damage on the Flail. The Ascended one on this side, who will make a 5-inch move there to get into combat with the Venom Blood, into the middle of both of them. So even though he's in contact with both, he's definitely then going to be within 3 of the centre of the objective, and he is there. So he will then choose to attack the Venom Blood, who's already been hurt there. 4 attacks then from the Ascended one into the Venom Blood with the second action. It's going to be strength 4, toughness 4, I believe. Yep. Oh, so only 1 hit. That is 2 damage, sorry, from the Ascended one. Putting the Venom Blood on 4 damage and 8 health remaining. And I don't think there's much else we'll be able to do there. So just for a bit of fun, the Chain Garrote there is the double ability that the Ascended ones can use. So they throw like a chain around the opponent. So you get to roll a single dice, use a double 6. On a 5 or a 6, we cause 6 damage here. 1 dice. Oh, no damage at all though. Okay, the Pure Blood over this side will now jump onto the objective and also fight once again this Flail. And that's going to be 1 attack action. Let's go with a Poison Weapon again. So we'll do double 5 for Poison Weapon, meaning we hit on 3s instead of 4s. And we get a 2 hits now because of Poison Weapon and a crit. That causes overall not much still, but it is going to be 5 damage, so 6 damage overall to the Flail. He's on 4 health remaining. In fact, 3 health remaining because he already had a damage from last round, from the last attack action before, from the other Pure Blood. So yeah, not much really. The Unmade definitely got this game pinned down. The only stuff to go left for the Splintered Fang is on this objective, which they already hold. So I think we'll probably leave it there anyway for this watch along. The only thing that would happen, these Splintered Fang might get a kill here. Would definitely probably hold that. But then to be honest, I've got 3 other models for the Unmade to go. They could all double move onto either of these 2 objectives and take hold of it at the end, I reckon. But either way, the Unmade would win the game by 1 or 2 points. There's no stopping that. But I hope you've all learnt a lot from this watch along video for Warcry, and I hope that you'll get involved in the game now. Possibly you've been watching Warcry on the channel and elsewhere on YouTube for a while, and you just haven't wanted to get into the game and you wanted to learn how to play it. Well, this is a nice way to have done that. And now you can go and check out, if you like, our plethora of other Warcry videos on the channel. There'll be some tagged at the end of this, I'm sure. And we've got a whole playlist of Warcry battle reports, including non-chaos factions, all the newer stuff, and other chaos. These factions will be on there as well if you want to watch more of these. But yeah, I hope you've learned a lot from this one. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. And we'll be back with more Warcry reports soon, as soon as we all start to come out of lockdown. Otherwise, happy skirmishing. Hey there skirmishers, hope you enjoyed watching that video. If you did, please do throw a like on the video down below and leave us some comments. Otherwise, if you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. You can hit the SMG icon left hand side of the screen. Otherwise, you can sign up to Patreon and access our extra videos and battle reports, etc. That will also help fund our terrain, new models, and the time that we put into the channel. And hopefully one day we can keep pushing to make more and more videos for you guys to be entertained by. Otherwise, Really hope you enjoyed this. Have a good day and happy skirmishing.